So, what are the concerns surrounding generative AI? The rise of generative AI is also fueling various concerns. These relate to the quality of results, potential for misuse and abuse, and the potential to disrupt existing business models. Here are some of the specific types of problematic issues posed by the current state of generative AI. It can provide inaccurate and misleading information. It is more difficult to trust without knowing the source and provenance of information. It can promote new kinds of plagiarism that ignore the rights of content creators and artists of original content. It might disrupt existing business models built around search engine optimization and advertising. It makes it easier to generate fake news. It makes it easier to claim that the real photographic evidence of a wrongdoing was just an AI generative fake. It could impersonate people for more effective social engineering cyber attacks. What are some examples of generative AI tools? Generative AI tools exist for various modalities, such as text, images, music, code, and voices. Some popular AI content generators to explore include the following. Text generation tools include GPT, Jasper, AI Writer, and Lex. Image generation tools include DAL-E2, Midjourney, and Stable Diffusion. Music generation tools include Amped, Databots, and MuseNet. Code generation tools include CodeStarter, Codex, GitHub Copilot, and Tab9. Voice synthesis tools include Descript, Listener, and Podcast.ai. AI chip design tool companies include Synopsys, Cadence, Google, and NVIDIA. Use cases for generative AI by industry. New generative AI technologies have sometimes been described as general purpose technologies akin to steam power, electricity, and computing because can profoundly affect many industries and use cases. It's essential to keep it in mind. Like previous general purpose technologies, it often took decades for people to find the best way to organize workflows to take advantage of the new approach rather than speeding up small portions of existing workflows. Here are some ways generative AI applications could impact different industries. Finance can watch transactions in the context of an individual's history to build better fraud detection systems. Legal firms can use generative AI to design and interpret contracts, analyze evidence, and suggest arguments. Manufacturers can use generative AI to combine data from cameras, X-rays, and other matrices to identify defective parts and the causes more accurately and economically. Film and media companies can use generative AI to produce content more economically and translate it into other languages with actors' own voices. The medical industry can use generative AI to identify promising drug candidates more efficiently. Architectural firms can use generative AI to design and adopt prototypes more quickly. Gaming companies can use generative AI to design game content and levels. Ethics and bias in generative AI. Despite their promise, the new generative AI tools can open a can of worms regarding accuracy, trustworthiness, bias, hallucination, and plagiarism. Ethical issues that likely will take years to sort out. None of the issues are particularly new to AI. Microsoft's first foray into chatbots is in 2016 called Tay. For example, had to be turned off after it started sweeping inflammatory rhetoric on Twitter. What is new that the latest crop of generative AI apps sound more coherent on the surface, but this combination of human-like language and coherence is not synonymous with human intelligence, and there certainly currently is great debate about whether generative AI models can be trained to have reasoning ability. One Google engineer was even fired after publicly declaring the company's generative AI app language models for dialogue applications Lambda was sentient. The convincing realism of generative AI content introduces a new set of AI risks. It makes it harder to detect AI generated content, and more importantly, makes it more difficult to detect when things are wrong. This can be a big problem when we rely on generative AI results to write code or provide medical advice. Many results of generative AI are not transparent, so it is hard to determine if, for example, they infringe or copyrights or if there is a problem with the original sources from which they draw results. If you don't know how the AI came to this conclusion, you cannot reason about why it is going to be wrong. Generative AI versus AI. Generative AI produces new content, chat responses, design synthetic data, and deepfakes. Traditional AI, on the other hand, has focused on detecting patterns, making decisions, honing analytics, classifying data, and detecting fraud.